we had written these songs, right? Like by the time Scott got in the band, we had already written 60 songs.
Wow.
And so we didn't, and even then, we didn't really know what the band was going to sound like because these songs were like everything from, something that sound kind of Stonesy to like, Slither to like Up Fall to Pieces, like a lot of those songs on Contraband we had already written, and so we didn't even really know the sound of the band. It didn't necessarily sound like Guns N' Roses even then, without a singer.
Okay.
Slither and Fall to Pieces don't sound like Guns N' Roses, and we had written those before, you know, he was in the band. So, and you got to understand that like we had given him these blank songs because we would record them live, but the quality was fairly good. It was on but we were just recording live so we could document all the songs. So we had all these blank songs, meaning with no vocals. And we gave him a couple songs and he gave us back Set Me Free. Like that was, a week later, we had a CD that had that song on it with his vocals that sounds almost like the record. It's basically the record version, that was the first thing we heard of our own band, with Scott singing on it. And we were like, holy shit, this is
Right.
the guy. There's no denying it. And obviously, if you've seen there's the VH1 documentary, like obviously there's apprehension and everything because of his, past drug use and all that stuff. And we were apprehensive, but we were so, it was just like so apparent. There was no denying like how awesome it was when we heard that first song. So I never, we never felt like, oh, it's this band or it sounds like half that band or half this band. And like I remember Scott saying to me once, you know, because like in the early days, I remember I think he was separated from his wife or something, and he stayed with me and my wife, like at our apartment. And I remember him saying, like, dude, I'm so glad that you're in this band. Because if it wasn't for you, I don't know if I'd be in the band because I would be afraid that it would just be, you know, the Guns N' Roses with Scott singing in it. And he's like, the fact that you're in it it's awesome because you bring in this kind of different element. And, we kind of came up in a different time a few years later than GNR did. GNR kind of came up and then SDP and Tool and Rage and Mild Band, all those other bands were coming up like right behind. So, I think that he felt kind of like I said, he had known me the longest and more comfortable, because I was there. And
I
so that was
I
cool.
I I think that is cool. That was cool for fans too. Like you say that you were the lesser known, and whether or not, I mean, it's semantics, but you added something to this new band where it didn't feel like, Guns N' Roses got back together with a different lead singer. It felt like new, and just having you there made all the difference. And I remember you talking about in one of the previous interviews that I did, and I'll give this question to another Brandon, Brandon Lopez on Facebook, because Izzy was there in the early days. So I guess people were curious about like that's why I asked about the sound, and
Yeah.
obviously if Izzy was there, it really would have been Guns N' Roses with Scott.
Yeah.
How involved was he? What did you take? Because correct me if I'm wrong, it was your first time meeting Izzy, and I remember you saying you were a little bit worried at the time. Did he seem that committed? What did you learn about, I guess, Izzy during
Oh,
the?
dude, I was fucking freaking out. I wasn't a little worried. I
Okay,
was
fair
like,
enough.
oh shit, this guy's gonna take my spot. I think we had been together about 6 months at that point, and he just came around. Like he's that, and look, Duff was the guy again that, I said, dude, what, is is he like because you gotta understand because also in that point, it was just the four of us and we didn't have a record deal. We didn't have any financial backing. Literally, we were rehearsing 5 days a week, writing songs, and Duff and Slash were fronting the bill, fronting the money for the bill at the recording at the rehearsal studio at Mates. And you know, that was it. There was no real commitment. So even myself felt like, am I in the band? Are we doing this? What's going to happen? Like, there was never really like, oh, you're in the band. Here's your money, or here's the deal. I never felt like that already. So
Mm.
when Izzy came around, it was like, oh, great. This guy's going to fucking take my spot. And, but couldn't have been any cooler. And Duff, said, dude, he's going to come in. We're going to write some songs with them, So all of us were in the room, you know. And then he's like, dude, don't worry. He does this, he comes in, he hangs out, he plays, he does this, and then he'll go and he'll just go off and do something else. He'll probably be here for a couple of weeks. Don't worry. And he just kept telling me not to worry. And then at one point, they went and they recorded. They're like, oh, we're going to go in the studio, like without me, And then I was like, oh, great. That's it. I'm done. And then they demoed like 3 songs, no vocals. And then sure enough, just like Duff said, he disappeared. And that was it. And then he reappeared like when we were on tour. He
Right.
showed up like in Italy. He was just, and we were like, oh, Izzy's here. And we're like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just hanging out, just traveling. He had a bicycle that he had rented that was chained up in front of the hotel, and then he came with us to some other country, like on the bus, and then he played like 2 shows with us, came out to guest on like, I don't know, Brownstone or something, and then or It's So Easy, and then he just left. And, you
He's like
know,
Batman. I feel
yeah,
like speaking of
rock and
Batman,
roll Batman.
yeah, he's kind of a little bit. Yeah, you don't really know the real Izzy.
Yeah.
But you had the experience, and I'm trying to give credit to the listener, so I apologize, but it was a good question, and it sounded like you all had an equal part, other than when they did their own little thing, but equal part in writing. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say? It wasn't just like,
Yeah, no, it was really a cool situation because everyone just came in with parts or, you know, like I remember when Slash came in with the the beginning of Fall to Pieces. Like I don't even think he had like when it goes into the heavier part, you know. He just had that and I just like it's so cool to have these records and everything, and then like all those memories of just being in that room. Because I've been in that room many times since. Like even recently when I did that tour with Infectious Grooves and we rehearsed in the same room, and I was just like, and I've been there, like I said, a bunch of times. And I remember I remember Matt. I remember Matt coming in and, I remember we were all sitting on the couch and Matt came in and he was like kind of nervous, so he would laugh a lot, and he'd be like, "Oh, hey, I got this song," and he grabbed Duff's bass without asking, and Duff was kind of like, "What?" and, but he was just like in the moment, and he was like excited, and he put the bass on, and we were all sitting on the couch, and he was just kind of standing over us, because he's such a big presence, and he just started playing uh, "Set Me Free" on the bass, the and he was just like looking at his fingers, trying to play it. And it was all like, you know, super heavy handed, but it was that, and, it became that song. So there was a lot of, it was very collaborative and, we labor over songs and someone would say, what if we go here in the middle section? Or what if we do this? Or what about this? And blah, blah, blah. So it was always like that in the band, which was awesome for